Today we will do a Theme 9, the Industrial Revolution. First, let's see the meaning of Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution means a major change in industries by which goods produced in houses by hands were replaced by those in factories with the help of this machine. In simple meaning, it means the use of machine-made goods. So, the first industrial revolutions occurred in between 1780s and 1850s and is initially focused on these textile industries, and this revolution changed permanently the human labor, consumptions, family structures, and social structure as well. Industrial Revolution kan ti chuan khawl hmanga thil siam in channa tina ni. Industrial Revolution hi 1780s le 1750s borvel khan England rama thlenga khawl hmanga thil siam in channa masaber chu puanta khawl hi nia. He revolution hianin nunphung atidang lam hne hle a mihring tha an hmanral eiral te chung kokhosak te mo le an vantlang nun thlengin a nghawng ani. So there is lots of change because of this industrial revolution. Okay, why did industrial revolution started in Britain? Okay, let's see the factors that led to industrial revolutions in Britain. Number one, Britain was the first industrial nation because of its political stability. From the 17th century onwards, and there was unifications of these Wales and Scotland with England under monarchy. And this stability paved the way for these common laws, and there was single monetary systems and currency with the single market. So all this enables the authority to impose proper taxes on goods that pass through these unified regions. So by the end of the 17th century, the prices of goods increased and money became the medium of exchange, and then people got the choice of spending money and expand their markets for the sales of their goods. And England witnessed a major economic change known as this agricultural revolutions in 18th century. So these agricultural revolutions was a process of this enclosure in which bigger landlords brought up small farms near their properties and enclosed the village common lands. So these large estates were created and resulted in increasing this food production as well. But these landless farmers and those who live by these grazing animals on the common lands were forced to search jobs somewhere else, and some of them shifted to nearby towns. Industrial revolutions hi tinge Britain na kher athen. Athan chu Britain ram kha 17th century a dei to khan ramin obdan rorel dan hial ngat tak alo nei dei to lal rorel na hnuaya omin Scotland te Wales ram te mo khang ho kha pakhat ram khata siamin thumunan siam tinani chu mo dan hial nge tak kha anin trawmani an poisa man ni se currency pakhat anin trawma thunei tu ten ramdang atanga bungrua an lak lu chia lak kan ti te khang te po kha ti ol sam me ni chuan 17th century nulam atang kha chuanin bungroman kha lo to chho tan ta ni sum le pai a indoor ton na te kha alo thlengan lo mang chho ta ni mipuin chu an du zo ka ni mo an bungrua te an shala chuan 17th century nulama phei ka chuanin England rama khan agriculture revolution a thlen pha hialani ram nei tu ten leilet te an neya chuan thingtlang lam thleng khan an huang khan han zawani in le lau zau tak tak khan dina chumi chuan nasa takin an thil siam chu kha atipung ani ma se lo nei tur re thei te kha ti lui na in na an zon tira mo a then phei chu ramdanga anin son pha hial ani. Next is town, trade and finance. The 18th century England witnessed the growth of many towns and populations. London was the largest city in England and there was a hub of market as well. It was a significant cities for this global trade as well, and it became the place for this international trade and become a centers of this triangular trade between this England, Africa and the West. In England, the movements of these goods between this market was held by a good network of this river and also the coastline with shelter bays and all the navigable sections of this English river flows into the sea, and this cargo on river vessels was easily transferred to this coastal ship as well. Okay, and next we go to financial system in Britain. The Bank of England was founded in 1694, and by 1784 there were more than 100 provincial banks in England. And during the next, so by 1870s there were more than 600 banks in the provinces and over 100 banks in London alone. So because of all these established banks, financial requirements were met by this big industrial enterprise. 18th century meu chuan England ram khan na sat takin khopui le populations alo pung chhota ni. London hi an khopui lian ber ania, khovel pum hua pa sumdo na mun pui poimo alo ni. Chawa chuanin Africa te West ram thlengin indoor ton na an lo nei thei ta hialani. Khati hun lai khanin bungra phur nan mo long hi an mang tlang pui ti kha hria tur chuan sumde chhuat na lama ni se bank hi 1694 khan an lo nei dei to a 1784 nulama phei kha chuanin England ram bungro England ram bung sang bank za chuang te meu me kha om dei to tinani chu chuan hemia wang hianin sum don na lama an sum mamo po phushu in industry lama khanin nasa takin ma an son pha ani. Okay, next we go to gold and iron. England was fortunate in that gold and iron ore, which was the staple materials for this mechanization, isn't it? And there were plentifully available. Iron is drawn out from this ore as pure liquid metal by a process called smelting, and then charcoal was used for this melting purpose. But there is a problem in using this charcoal because let's see here, charcoal was too fragile to transport across long distance, and its impurities produced this poor quality of iron, and on top of that it was in short supply because forests had been destroyed for this timber and it could not generate high temperature. Okay, next is inventions of this blast furnace. Who invented this blast furnace? 3 generations of this family, grandfather, father and son, all are goalless. Abraham Darby brought about a revolution in this metallurgical industry, and the first invention was made in 1709. This was a blast furnace that would use coke, which could generate high temperature, and this invention was meant that furnace no longer had to depend on this charcoal. And in the second inventions, Darby developed wrought iron from this pig iron, and in the third inventions made in 1779, Darby built the first iron bridge in the world in Coalbrookdale. Okay, so due to the use of this blast furnace, the British iron industry quadrupled its output between 1800 and 1830s, and its products were the cheapest to be available in Europe. industry a an mamo tur lung al thei te le iron ni se an ramin an nga na sa hle mai se a iron ti tuinan khan mei hol an hmanga ma se mei hol hi a ke som hma wangin le mei hol siam chhuah nan an ram ngaw thing tha an hmanral na sa wangin blast furnace kha an siam chhuak ta ni. What is this blast furnace? Blast furnace chu thil chhuan tuina mei pui kha iron ti puah theina mo haldar theina tur kha an siam ani. Okay. He thir ti som na ni chu mo an chuanin he thir sawng bol na an siam hnu phe he chuan a liat li in an thil siam chhuah a tipunga a pun pawh le an thil man kha lo tlawm tuala khat ti hun laia Europe rama chuan an thil siam chhuah kha a tha ber tlawm ber an ni phah hial ani okay khati zong kha voina kan explain thei chu ni ya. Thank you all.